Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. So in this video specifically, I will be teaching you how to create more depth in your landscape painting. If you would like to watch a full class, how I paint this landscape, please join my online school at www.patreon.com/mariamorjane. So we're going to start with undertones. Undertones are extremely important, especially when we paint with watercolors. Everything you see is affected by light and shadows. And when it comes down to something simple as grass, if you think about it, grass is just green. But how is that green created? This is when the color wheel becomes really helpful, because when you take a look at that color wheel, you will see that the green is created by a mix of blue and yellow, which is why I start with yellow as an undertone for my grass. Beautiful undertones, and this is more like a half and half like ratio between what I'm painting. Now please notice the way I'm applying the yellow. I'm not applying it towards like one area. I'm looking for the areas where I want more of that vibrant yellow, and that's with a dirty brush. Now that's where I'm grabbing this heavy cream-like ratio between what I'm painting of this sap green, and I'm looking for the areas where I want this green to like shine through, basically where I want to show more of it. Now if I want to change the green, the shade of green, I can just grab some of this phthalo blue, and that automatically changes the shade of my green, and it looks natural because I'm creating different shades of green. And I can go higher. However, I have to be careful because again, this is all drying, and I have like this, I'm just applying the colors here, and every time I touch the paper, I'm actually making the brush wetter in a way. So if I want to change even more the shade of this green, I can just grab some of the Van Dyke Brown, for example. Van Dyke Brown is another great option. And then if you want to change it even more, you can grab some of the indigo. So you can play with the colors. Now here again is my phthalo blue, right? And then some sap green, and then some of the Van Dyke Brown. How about some burnt sienna too? So we have all these colors, but please notice that I'm not trying to mix colors on the palette. Everything is happening here on my paper. So I'm looking for whatever I want to make it darker. Let's say these are my trees, right? I'm going to grab a little bit of some of this indigo too here. So some areas will just have more of that. You can create like a designated area too for a path. So I kind of have it actually like a little path in my first version. And I'm trying to look at it as I'm painting my first version. Where did I create that path? It was kind of like this way. I'm going to show this to you quickly. Looks like I have a path here almost. Well, that always looks nice too. So just FYI. And then go through it without adding more water to your brush. You don't want to have any more new water on your brush, because that just makes everything flow too much. Float, like not float, it just, you're going to push the paint away from some of the areas, and that's an easy way to create blooms. So I'm going to add a little more of the Van Dyke Brown and some of the sap green, just so I can create some more contrast, because I need contrast too. And I want more darks in the foreground here. And in a second, I'm going to show you, I'm going to grab these, the rigger brush, for example. So I'm going to grab that in a second, but first I want to add a little more of a color, the darks, right in here. And it's kind of like I'm dabbing on the paper just a little bit in some areas, choosing some areas. This way, that's how I'm creating texture. And when you try to show that something is in the foreground, that's when you can add more color and you can define more strokes. So this is when I start using heavier ratios between water and paint. Everything in the background can stay out of focus. So just the way I painted it, wet on wet, I don't need to go back there and add more unless I want to add a couple of trees, which would be much smaller compared to the foreground trees, for example. So everything in the foreground becomes bigger, larger, and also that's when I want to add more darks in the foreground, and I can go in the middle too. But the larger strokes, the longer strokes, need to be way in the foreground, and you don't need to add that many darks unless you really want to show that contrast. And one of those techniques is actually this. So just pulling the paint. And you can also grab some of the phthalo blue, for example. So it just depends how vibrant you want it to be too. I'm going to keep this part, I will leave it alone so the values are a little lighter compared to the foreground here. Again, you're mixing colors on a paper, and this is my palette. So this is Van Dyke Brown. Actually, I'm going to grab some of the burnt sienna too, and then I'm going to grab some of this indigo. So I have all these colors, which is a lot, right? But I'm letting them to mix on the paper, not like palette. So I have like a, let's say, perfect color mix. I don't want that. I want everything to happen here on my paper so I can see the separation of colors. I'm just grabbing cream top like ratio between water and paint of that Van Dyke Brown, indigo, even phthalo blue, sap greens, and burnt sienna. The colors that we're going to use actually for the trees. There you go, a little more of that. And you will notice that in some areas, the paper's like almost like there's no more shine here, for example. So you want to keep an eye on it because that's actually an excellent, like perfect timing to start lifting colors. I'm going to start doing that in just a second. I want a little more of just the sap green. I feel like I've been adding all these darks, but I don't have enough of the sap green. So I'm just grabbing this kind of drier sap green and pulling through here a little more, just to sap green, but I also have like other colors still on top of my brush. So it's very like creamy. It feels creamy, the consistency of that watercolor on my brush. And this feels damp. So, okay, right there, this is perfect timing to lift colors right here. This is my brush to lift the colors anyway. This is my Songbird size 2, my favorite brush to lift. Here, I'm gonna wipe it. Before you lift, you wanna wipe it. And then you're gonna find the areas. First of all, maybe you wanna bring some light in onto some of these areas. One of the ways is to lift the colors, but I'm doing it because the grass would have like some highlights. Some of the grass parts would have like be highlighted. So you want to lift those areas to create that balance. So the left side of my painting has dried faster than the right side, actually, except for the top part here. Now we have to think about perspective because we can't have like super long grass strokes like here because this is our background. We should focus here on the longest ones and maybe a little bit here. So just quickly, I will lift a little bit, not too much, and maybe over here too, just tiny bits, because this is where I should be really lifting for like to have like the long ones right here. Just lift through just a little bit. We don't have to lift too much, or we don't even have to lift at all if you don't want to. You can, for example, instead use masking fluid for watercolors. That will work too. So thank you so much for your time, and please let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you enjoyed watching this video, as this video is a little bit different. And again, if you would like to watch a full class how to paint this beautiful landscape, please join my online school. I offer weekly classes and tutorials with voiceover. On Patreon, there's way over 500 tutorials already since I've been teaching on Patreon since 2017. Thank you for your time.